Constitution might well be called America's ship of state. Before 1792, America didn't have a navy. After the end of the American Revolution in 1730, there was nobody to protect American shipping and trade until we had enemy of action both with Britain and France, who were happily taking people off American ships and impressing them into their navies. And by 1800, the pirates in the Mediterranean were attacking American ships too. In fact, in 1794, Congress decided we had to have a navy and passed the Navy Act authorizing 6 big frigates, mostly to protect American shipping from the Barbary pirates. Constitution is probably the most famous of those ships, and she was launched in 1797, spent about 3 years chasing away French pirates in the West Indies, and then took a squadron to the Western Mediterranean, where she fought off the Tripolitan pirates. One of the interesting things that comes out of history was the fact that one of the other frigates in the squadron, USS Philadelphia, was chasing a xebec one day, and the xebec deliberately sailed over a reef, and USS Philadelphia followed and didn't make it, and she went aground on the reef, and the ship stayed in Tripolitan hands, and Captain Bainbridge and his crew spent a year in a Tripolitan prison before we could get them back. After the Barbary War, Constitution stayed in both African squadrons and Mediterranean squadrons until she was finally sent home and was refurbished and refitted, and took the American ambassador to Paris in 1811, and on her way home she encountered the British frigate HMS Guerriere, who turned history upside down for the British Navy and the Americans. Guerriere surrendered to Constitution in about 3 hours, and the British were outraged. They claimed that we were sailing ships of the line, big warships, and not frigates, and that wasn't fair. She continued to be America's hero, capturing 5 big British frigates and many merchant people until 1818, when she was retired from active duty service and once more went home. She was refinished in the 1820s, when Andrew Jackson was president. They installed a headpiece up there on the bow, and since Andrew Jackson had a few political problems, somebody sneaked into the yard, cut the head off the headpiece of Andrew Jackson, and finally the total headpiece was replaced in just a small carving like we see here on the carving. She was from the 1820s on, she was a training ship or a receiving ship for quite a long time, where she just kept volunteers and new people until they got assigned to a ship. And in 1840s, she made a tour around the world, around the United States, as America's hero ship. And when she came back, she went back into training duty, and during the American Civil War, she was stationed at Annapolis as a training ship. Constitution was once more retired in 1850 or 1881, and once more went back to being a receiving ship until about 1890. In 1907, she was designated as a national museum and went to the Charlestown Naval Yard, which was in now the Boston Navy Yard. And from then on, she has served as a fully active duty ship. She has a crew of 60 officers and men. They live in what is now the Boston Navy Yard. They conduct tours on the ship, and the crew all wear 1812 uniforms, and they take part in national events in harbors. In fact, in 1997, she celebrated her 200th birthday and sailed up to Maine and back into the harbor again. And this model was done by Jim Berger, a member of the Museum's Modelers Guild. In fact, he used drawings he obtained from the Smithsonian, and this is actually the third Constitution model that he finished, because the first one, the drawings from the Smithsonian didn't include all of the frame down in the rigging, because the drawings would be so cluttered with black lines there, you couldn't ever see what shape the frames were or how many there were. He tried another one, and with his own count of the frames down there. And this third one, if you notice, there are openings between the frames up here so that you can see how the frames were shaped in the hull. And she now is America's famous old Ironsides, and still will live. She is the oldest sailing warship in the world right now, and will probably continue to be for who knows how long.